Let me just see that sheet for a minute I gave you, Herb.
Okay, Michael.
Should we say the Pledge of Allegiance? Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag, the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, good morning.
This meeting is being held for RFQ 41-27 Professional On-Call Wastewater Engineering Services to select one of the two engineers that we narrowed the list down, Tigan Bond, Weston, and Sampson. So I think by the numbers, by the spreadsheet that I developed for the interviews, Environmental Partners scored at 551, Tigan Bond scored 668, Weston Sampson scored 670. So by virtue of the difference between Environmental Partners and the two other hired engineers score, they're 117 points less. So I think by virtue of that, we've decided to eliminate Environmental Partners. Is that correct?
Yes, sure.
I think everybody got the sheet, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Oh, I gotta find it.
I don't know.
If not, I've got an extra copy if anybody wants to see the extra copy. So based on that, does anybody want to make a motion to eliminate Environmental Partners from this selection?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All right, remember, you got to make the motion. You got to tell me what the motion is.
I'll make a motion that we eliminate Environmental Partners from the value for the on-call engineering services.
Motion by Bill, seconded by Don. Is there any further discussion on the motion to eliminate Environmental Partners from the on-call engineering services?
Can you just copy this down?
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Let's move on to Tigan Bond and Weston and Sampson. I'd like to go around the table if anybody's interested in making a comment on the preference. Bill, I'm going to start with you.
Well, they were very close, Ty and Bond and Webb Sampson.
Microphone.
Huh?
Just gotta be close. Gotta be close.
Oh. And being as close as they are, and by the numbers, 2 points difference, it's going to be difficult, really, to pick, to select. Ty and Bond has obviously a preference of being local, city of Shelton. But then Webb Sampson, they have a lot of experience in, the application we're looking for, and I guess even on the maintenance side. To me, I'm just gonna wait, I'd like to hear what everybody else has to say before I make a final decision one way or the other. It's so close.
Don?
all of the, people that submitted bids are very qualified. I have no problem with any of them. I know very little about, what they're talking about. They're engineers and they're into this business. However, when we narrowed it down to the two that we have, I can't see, when something's not broke, where you wanna fix it. So I would lean toward, Weston and Sampson, only because, which is a strong only, because we've had Matt here for almost 10 years, and he knows what's going on. He works well with Garrett, he works well with, Ernie and Peter, and, I just don't see the need. If he was still with the former company and they put in a bid, I would probably go with that as well, because he's done a lot of work in this town since I've been here, and he knows the plant backwards and forwards. He did most of the renovations, so I would definitely be leaning towards, Weston and Sampson.
Being that, again, this is the first time I've ever done something like this, I would, tend to agree with Donald, what he just said. If you have someone that's local, and from the comments I've heard prior, to even getting into the selection process, the outstanding reviews of Matt and his loyalty to the city, I would tend to lean towards Weston and Sampson.
Is it Joe?
That's it, yeah.
I was gonna echo what Bill and Don said. With Bill, he said, they're close. Ty and Bond and Weston and Sampson. Don mentioned Matt, and the fact that, he's been involved with the city for a good 10 years or more. And, I kinda lean a little bit more toward that. We've always liked Matt. Matt knows the situation, knows the plant. And, so I lean a little bit more towards Weston and Sampson, but they're both good. If it wasn't for Matt, it'd probably be really hard to decide. If we go with Matt and Weston and Sampson, a little more, I lean a little bit more toward that than a Ty and Bond, but like Bill said, they're close. It's close.
Okay, so real quickly for me, going back to the three. So environmental partners, even though they scored a little bit lower, I think my decision on environmental partners with a lower score, like many of us, was that they didn't go to the plant and they didn't see what was needed at the plant and talk to the plant staff. That's critical that you're talking to the plant staff and you understand what the plant staff needs and what they're looking for. I did like their engineer, Sarah, I believe her name was.
Right.
I liked her a lot. She was really on the ball, but I had a hard time because let's face it, these three engineers are all qualified engineers. So and to have 45 minutes is difficult. So you're kind of going a little bit on a 45-minute interview and you're getting a first reaction from everybody. So even though environmental partners scored lower than everybody else, I'd still like them because I think Sarah was really on the ball. But we have to eliminate them because the score is what we're trying to really focus on to make a decision. Again, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, or it's going to be a little bit maybe easier, difficult. I don't know. So on the Tig and Bond, they obviously know what's going on. I wasn't as impressed with their engineer. Now, it's a hard thing to say that in a 45-minute discussion that their engineer is going to be good or bad or indifferent. She just didn't come across, and I don't even remember her name. Lori. She didn't come across as strong as Sarah from Environmental Partners. She spoke very well about what she's going. Lori seemed a little bit intimidated, but that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean she's not a good engineer. And that doesn't mean that Tig Bond's not a good engineer and can handle it. Weston and Sampson, again, the two things. One of the things that I liked that I didn't even know that Ernie and I spoke about later on was that they have their own in-house staff that they can take on some of these the repairs and some of these things that we do. And it makes it a lot easier because now you have an engineer, and namely Weston and Sampson, I think his name was Chris.
Yes.
And Matt, that now all of a sudden we're going, when we have better coordination and we've done a lot of repairs over the years. And I'm not going to say they've been hard, but it takes time to get up on with drawings and stuff. So that's what was a strong point for me for Weston and Sampson, was that the fact that they actually had a staff separate from that company. They had a staff that they can bring down to the plant and do our repairs, and they had a Class 4 operator, 2 Class 4 operators. Now, what does that mean for us? I don't see that as anything that's going to really make it. I would cross that one off and say it doesn't mean much, although it's something that we might not know until the future. Whoa, wow, we got a Class 4 operator. Garrett's out, or we need a Class 4 operator. That's when it's going to become evident probably in the future, not right now. And I'm not saying I'm not using that as my kingpin. My kingpin is that they have this service, additional service, and then the second piece is having Matt. Those guys down there love Matt, and Matt's been receptive to them. So with that, we're going to obviously eliminating through a vote. We just eliminated environmental partners. So if there's no other discussion, you can fill out this form and hand it to me, and then we can take a vote on the decision. So if you can put your final decision on the bottom, initial it, and put the date on here also. And if you have...
Do you want Pete, Mr. Chairman, do you want to go to Pete and...
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Ernie and Pete, since you guys were at the interview, although you're not going to be counted as, that's fine.
Sure.
Does anyone need any contractions?
Nope, I'm doing mine in red.
All right. Do I have the floor, Mr. Chairman?
Thank you.
Yes, you do.
All right, board members and the chairman, as far as the administrator for the Shelton Water Pollution Control Authority, my position is pretty much echoing some of your sentiments, being that all 3 firms were definitely qualified, and their strong points, as you narrowed it down, so the environmental partners, as you did, eliminate them for your reasons, but when between the difference between Ty and Bond and Weston and Sampson, my thoughts were, they have Joe Pereira, phenomenal engineer, real great person, easy to work with. I found it very easy to work with Lori. I found that they were very studious and diligent in their approach to preparing for their presentation, which I thoroughly believe they knocked it out of the park. What separated Ryan Bond and Weston Sampson in my mind was the fact that, again, Matt having the 10+ years working within the facilities, knowing the infrastructure intimately, and then what was the real home run hit for them, the fact that they had the sister company that could supply parts and the labor at a moment's notice to do an emergency repair, which in my mind is unprecedented. I feel a little bit stronger towards what the second part that they had with the operators of our plant being down an operator at this moment. God forbid we lost any other operators. The fact that Weston and Sampson was the only company that could provide operators for our plant simply separated the men from the boys, in my mind. And I know my vote doesn't count, but that's what I feel Weston and Sampson had the edge due to providing parts and labor, and then being able to provide a level 1 through a level 4 operator at a moment's notice. Our plant simply was over the top. Thank you. Here's Mr. Pete Pavone.
Well, having worked many years with Matt, I had a lean towards him. It was very close. I was very impressed with the lady from Ty and Bond. I think she really knew her stuff. But unbelievable in the last 10 years. I've worked with him very closely. He uses the resources we have in that. He's been a great asset to the FOG program, determining tank sizing and stuff like that for new restaurants. So I won't make it a long-winded thing. I'll just say my thoughts are Weston and Sampson were the best, helped a lot.
You want to put some notes down, and then you can sign, put your final decision on the bottom and initial and data, please. Are there any other discussions, any other comments? Joe, this is you, right?
Yeah.
Mike, where do I date it?
Just underneath your name's fine.
Initials, under the initials?
Yeah, anywhere on the bottom is fine. Just one where there's a date somewhere there.
Let's say 27.
27.
So,
On the last one, Chairman,
Yes, sir. Mr. Co-Chairman.
what is it, 27th, isn't it?
Yes.
Don, can you just put a check mark, please, up there near their name? It's on the bottom, it's a box, we gotta make sure we fill it out. Thank you. All right, so the two, Eugene and John Pushkar, who aren't obviously here today, but since they were at the interviews, it doesn't necessarily matter, but since they're here at the interviews, I think we should accept their recommendations, and their recommendations, both Eugene is Weston and Sampson, and John Pushkar is Weston and Sampson also. Does anybody disagree with me that we should allow their votes?
No, we should allow them.
Everybody okay allowing their?
Yes, I think we should allow them.
Please, just say, yeah,
Yes.
you're all set?
Okay.
Joe, you're set? Don,
Yes.
you're all set?
Yes, allow their
Okay.
evaluations.
So it's unanimous anyway. Everybody voted for Weston and Sampson. So the five of us here voted for Weston and Sampson, and the two absentee people today, John and Eugene, voted for Weston and Sampson. So does somebody want to make a motion to accept Weston and Sampson as our professional on-call wastewater engineer? And if so, please state it, that just like that RFQ, whatever the RFQ number here is, 4127.
I'll make a motion that we accept Weston and Sampson as the on-call engineering services for RFQ 41-27.
I'll second the motion to make Weston and Sampson the engineer on call for RF 4127.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor for RFQ 4127 to accept Weston and Sampson as our on-call wastewater engineer. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of Weston and Sampson?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Vote so ordered. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn? Or since there's no further discussion,
So moved.
all in favor? All right, thank you.
Joe, weren't you at the interview?